Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. My name is Dr. Adam Fayal here with Future Ready Schools, and I'm so glad you joined us today for our important conversation around AI. I'm sure you've never heard of AI. This is this new thing. It's coming out. It's going to hit the streets. No, seriously, it's been around for a while now, but it is now coming into our schools each and every day. We're learning and doing more and more with AI. But at Future Ready Schools, we believe in the power of educational technology, but not just for technology's sake. We understand that it is a driver for educational excellence, innovation, and student-centered learning. And today, artificial intelligence is just the latest wave of innovation that's hitting our schools. It brings a ton of promise, whether you're talking about personalized learning, greater efficiency, or some of these new and powerful tools. But with all that, there are some real challenges that we have to address. And that's why we're here to really talk about this work, because we want to know, are we leading the work or is the work leading us? At Future Ready Schools, we've been working with national experts, classroom leaders, and district leaders to answer that question and many others. We've developed a guide using our Future Ready framework that we're going to show you today. And we want to make sure that district leaders are harnessing the power of AI responsibly and intentionally, especially for our most marginalized students and those in underserved populations. So throughout today's webinar, you'll hear us talk a lot about generative AI. And for those of you who are not aware, generative AI, it creates content like text, images, code. It can do some amazing things for us. It's very powerful, but we want to make sure that we're using it in an intentional way, because if we don't, we could have some unintended consequences. So throughout this hour, we're going to lean on our Future Ready framework, which is a trusted, evidence-based structure for systems of change. But you didn't just come to hear from me. As you can see on the screen, I have some amazing leaders around here. This panel today is going to be made up of practitioners who are in the trenches, who are doing the work. And I'm all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast to the Midwest. We have some of everybody here today. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring these amazing folks up to the stage, and they're going to tell you a little bit about themselves at this very moment. So let's see who all do we have right now. Everybody else at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we got everybody here. So let's go ahead and come around the horn and share who we are today. So Danae, go ahead and get us going.
Hello, everyone. I am Danae Acker. I am a digital integration specialist serving our teachers and students here in South Carolina. I'm from Anderson, and I am glad to be here today.
All right, thanks. Chris.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Hagel. I'm the Chief Information Officer in the Peninsula School District. We are located in Gig Harbor, Washington, which is about an hour south of Seattle. School district of about 9,000 kids and about 600 teachers. I'm really excited to be here with everybody today.
And I'll just jump in. My name is Greg Bagby. I'm the coordinator of instructional technology in Hamilton County Schools, Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I, like Chris and all the others, I am excited to get this conversation started.
Hi, Matt Winters. I'm from from Utah State Board of Education. I almost said my old title there. I'm the AI Education Specialist of the Utah State Board of Education. Super excited to be here. We serve 672,000 students and almost 30,000 teachers across the state of Utah.
And Matt, you're being very modest there. I heard through the grapevine your official title is AI Czar of Utah. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what the word on the street is.
That's what I've heard as well. I think we need to make some jackets there.
All right, and Sally.
Hey everyone, it's great to be here with you all. I'm Sally Holloway. I'm the Director of AI and Computer Science in Gwinnett County Public Schools. We are right outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and we serve around 183,000 students. So really excited to be a part of the conversation and learn from this amazing panel.
I think, and Sally, the work that they're doing out there, we'll share that a little bit later, but they are renowned across the country. I think just about in every AI workshop seminar I've been in, Gwinnett has been mentioned and the great work that y'all are doing there. So thank you for joining us. All right, so I do want to talk briefly about Alfred, the organization that I'm a part of. With our organization, we are committed to expanding educational opportunities for students based on their that have been marginalized across the country. We're talking about students based on their color, low income students. We want to ensure that where they live, does not determine their outcome. Our big thing is students, it's great to celebrate when they overcome obstacles, but our job is really to get rid of all those obstacles for our students, no matter where they live and no matter where they're born, no matter where they want to go in life. And the organization, the part that I am a part of is Future Ready Schools. We work with districts across the country. As I mentioned earlier, we have our amazing Future Ready framework, which is a research-based tool that we want to ensure that all districts have access to. If you want to connect with us, you can find us on all the socials there, Future Ready Schools. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Twitter. As my good friend Carl calls it, Twix, because it's Twitter and X. Just throw it all together there. Also find us on YouTube, and we have some amazing resources that we'd love for you to check out as well. And I mentioned earlier our Future Ready framework, and we're going to lean back on this multiple times throughout the day. But as you can see there, we use this to ensure that all these goals are met. And if you see dead center of that gear there, we have our learner centered, because all the work we do is centered around our students. If we don't focus in on our students, then we're missing the mark. So we want to make sure that no matter what we do, our students are centered in the work that we're doing here. And we can't be here without our amazing program sponsors, Follett, Cellcrate, Google, AT&T, Harmony. Definitely check out those resources. They can be found at futureready.org. And no matter who you are, we got a strand for you. Future Ready librarians, we got you covered. Tech leaders, principals, you know it. District leaders, coaches, hey, we got a gear for you. We're here to support you no matter where you are or what you do. Future Ready is here to serve. Now, this conversation that we're having around AI, we want to ensure that we empower all learners with AI. Because as we know, this is that new tool. I'm old enough to remember when they started putting TVs in the classroom. Cable in the classroom was going to revolutionize and change education. And I'm not just talking about the big wheel cart with the VCR on there. Yeah, y'all remember that. We're not just talking about that. But then we put a computer in the classroom with high-speed internet, and that was supposed to change things. But did we really get the change that happened? Then we talked about one-to-one. So all these tech tools have come out that were supposed to change and revolutionize education. But when you really look at it, AI has that potential. One thing that we've said, that I've said multiple times, AI is this generation's internet. When we first got internet access, that was like this game changer for a lot of us. That's what AI is now. AI is this generation's internet. How are we going to empower our students to utilize this tool and really change the game moving forward? So I want to lean on some data that we got from our good friends right here. Speak Up, they've done some amazing research. And if you're interested in taking a part of this, I'll share their data a little bit later and you can take part in a Speak Up survey. But they found that 55% of our educators are confident about using AI in their own professional use. And educators are confident about introducing, 46% of them are confident in introducing technology to their students. But only 11% feel that they're moderately or extremely familiar with the current AI policies and guidelines. So while we have a lot of teachers utilizing this platform, a lot of them are not familiar with any policies or guidelines. And that's because a lot of districts haven't had that conversation and really developed those thoroughly just yet. So that's really why we have this panel together. That's really why we put this work in place, to really have the conversations around these policies and guidelines that districts need as they are implementing AI in education. So from this amazing panel, I'm going to ask you, and just kind of hop in where you feel you want to. Where would you suggest someone start aligning their AI work with their future ready goals? And when I talk about future ready, I mean having their students college and career ready, ready for the world, whatever that looks like. Because, you know, hey, I just got this job yesterday. What does it look like in my space moving forward with AI? Just kind of just set it up for everybody. And let's see, who wants to start us off with that one? Let's say Greg, what do you say?
Sure. One of the things that I would like to do, or that I try to tell my teachers, districts, whomever I'm speaking with, especially when they're using AI or they want to use AI and jump in, don't just use AI for the sake of, ooh, we got AI. It's a new shiny tool. Let's turn it on. Have a problem that you're actually going to solve with AI. Don't just go into it unless you're teaching AI specifically or AI literacy or specifics of AI. Don't just jump in with, oh, now they've added AI, let's use it. Make sure there's a problem that you're actually wanting to solve, a specific reason to turn on AI, a specific reason to jump into AI, because I've seen a lot of folks use that shiny new thing just because it was the shiny new thing. It reminds me of the teacher who wanted, well, Yes, a teacher who wanted a laptop when we were giving out laptops years ago. This was in the 1900s. We had the clamshell Macs and we were giving them out to certain teachers. And one of the ladies, actually, she was a social worker. She wanted one and we're like, are you going to use it? She was like, yeah, I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it. 3 days before the end of the school year, she comes back with the Mac and says, this thing is broken. I never got a chance to use it. We're like, what? You'd never use it? No. Look, and she opened it, pushed the button, and the thing was she had never charged it. She'd never plugged it in. And she just wanted to have that clamshell Mac like all of the other folks. And that's what folks are doing with AI. Oh, I'm using AI in my classroom. Yeah, but to what end? So anyway, I'm sorry. I almost got on the soapbox and started going to town. My bad. But that's about it. Have a reason to use it.
Thank you. Chris.
Sure. Yeah, I was gonna hop on to Greg's there. Greg will get on his soapbox for a while. We'll be here forever. No, I really do like that. You know, we've been embracing AI in our district for quite a while, and really, you know, once you figure out, like, there's a whole idea that people need. I do believe that people need to experiment and figure out and try and play. So that you know what you're actually able to do and how it can actually benefit you. You know, this morning I was with our OTs and our PTs, and we were talking about ways in their workflow that AI can help. And you only get to those levels of conversations by actually trying things and experimenting and figuring out what it is that you want to achieve for the kids that you're working with and what you want them to achieve. And once you have those goals figured out, then you can really kind of jump in and figure out where the tool fits best. You know, it's not pick the tool and we're going to use that for the sake of using the tool, kind of like the laptop story Greg was sharing. It's, you know, figure out what is the task, the skill, the thing you need to accomplish, and then we'll figure out how to use what you have available to you in the best method possible. So.
Thanks. And Danae, if you can kind of hop in on that, like from your level, because I know you work hand in hand with teachers and with a lot of coaching. So where would you suggest, like, would teachers get started with AI?
Well, I love what Chris and Greg said. Like, don't use it for the sake of using it, but also don't be in a silo by yourself. Stay curious, go home and play, but also get with your teacher besties and talk about what you're doing. When Greg, you gave that example of the laptop, had that teacher just talked to somebody, they probably could have helped her and said, hey, did you charge it? And then she could have actually used it versus bringing it back and say it doesn't work. So make sure you're not doing the work alone is one of the most important things, I think.
And Sally, I know, like I said, I mentioned earlier that you guys are cutting edge with the work that y'all are doing. And you were one of the first districts that I heard of in the country doing stuff around AI. I took a lot of pride in that, being someone who resides in the state of Georgia, that Georgia's leading the way in something. So can you really share, like, what was the reason that y'all kind of started this, or how did you start this conversation around ensuring that AI is ready, is making your students future ready?
Yeah, it's interesting because it really came from a place of future ready, exactly what you talked about, thinking about college and career readiness, workforce development. When we started the conversation back in 2018, that was around the time that McKinsey Global Institute, World Economic Forum were putting out these big reports on what AI was going to do to the workforce. And so we knew we had an opportunity to do some innovative things because of some stuff that was going on in our district. And we thought, what if we talked about AI readiness? What does that need to look like? How do we start preparing our students? And it really led us down a path of thinking about what are the skills that students need in order to thrive as responsible users, decision makers, developers in a world of AI. And so we created a framework and we embed that framework into every student's learning experience, K through 12. It's not a special class. And so there are technical pieces in there like data science and programming and leveraging AI tools when it's appropriate. But there's a lot of human-only skills, what we call them, like creative problem solving and ethical thinking and collaborative leadership, and really kind of marrying those things together. So, big picture, we're thinking about AI literacy, durable skills. How do we make sure our students are entering into a world that we really don't know what it might look like, but if we can give them some really solid skills and background, they're going to know how to navigate that. So my soapbox that I get on when we talk about using AI tools is if you're talking about using tools without first talking about literacy, you skipped a step. And so that's something I would consider when you're thinking about starting that journey.
That's so great there. And Matt, if I could toss this over to you, she mentioned literacy, and in your position, you're supporting an entire state. So, I don't have this question up here, but I want to ask you this question, and because I know you can answer this one. So, how do you go about like really telling districts or supporting districts in this conversation around AI literacy?
That's a great question, Adam. And I want to start with not pushing back on everyone on the panel, but I do want to say something that's going to highlight a different thought process. We often in education put everything under tool. AI, especially generative AI, is not a tool. It's a fundamental technology. How I explain it to teachers here in the state of Utah, and I've explained this across the country as well, is it's the fundamental underlying technology of the 21st century, a la what electricity was to the 20th century, what steam engines were to the 19th century. And so why that's important is, and it goes to what Sally just said, is AI only gets really exciting when we plug something into it. Electricity only gets really cool when we plug a light bulb into it. And so we have to have that human in the system to work it through and get the cool things to happen with creativity, with inclusivity, with all the parts of humanity that make it exciting to use these tools and this technology. And so when we talk about AI literacy, that's something that I come back to again and again, both with our teachers and with our students, is that we have to remember that this is a fundamental technology underneath not just our educational system, but underneath our commerce systems, underneath our transportation systems, underneath so many things that we take for granted in modern life. And so what we have to think about isn't just how do we use this tool to make educational gains, but actually how do we think this through as a technology that is going to affect every avenue of our life going forward into the next 50 to 70 years, if not longer. And so when we talk about future ready skills, that's one of the big skills, is having students be aware and understanding of what AI is doing to them and doing with them. Because if you're not aware of what AI is doing in your system, then it's going to use you. And we want to make sure that it's actually doing the right things with you as well.
Can I jump in real quick on one of the things that Matthew, he talked about how AI being transformative, which it is definitely, and how the electricity, that was a great example. I actually love that example. And yet countries like, I know people hate this, Finland, they've had internet access as a basic utility, as a basic right that everyone has access. We still don't have access to the internet all across the country. And that digital divide is going to be widened even greater because of AI and the things that are happening through AI. And I just want folks to realize that, yes, this is something that is ubiquitous in all markets, all areas. And yet there's still some kids that don't have access to the internet or the use of AI. I know it sounds crazy thinking kids have access. No, they don't. They get to school and it's banned or blocked. Yes, there are still some schools banning and blocking AI, in case you all didn't know. And yet their counterparts, 3 states or 3 counties over, they have cell phones and they're using Snapchat with AI built in, or Meta with AI on the Instagrams or Facebooks. And sorry, man, y'all just push me. Y'all keep pushing. Don't do that to me, y'all.
See, and Greg, I'm gonna let you slide, even though you showed the fact that you were born in the 19th century when you put the in front of Snapchat and Facebook. But I'm gonna let that slide, because we're amongst friends here. No one else is gonna hear that. This is us talking here. No one else is not like this is going live across the world. No one's gonna hear that. But because I always look at literacy with AI, and Matt, you kind of mentioned this. It's how you're using it, but also understanding how it's using you. Because I think the same thing happened with the internet and like Google. We talked about Google earlier offline. We were using Google and not understanding about data tracking and cookies and all that fun stuff. We were just like, oh, I can use this thing and find out information just by typing it in. We didn't understand that it was ad tracking us and all this other stuff that was going on behind the scenes because we just didn't know. But now that we know more or know better, we should do better. So here's the next question that I want to pose to this panel. When we start talking about our implementation of use of AI, the big term now is AI governance. I mean, we saw recently that the White House had released an executive order around AI literacy and AI implementation. And so now this is something else that's falling onto the districts to support the implementation of use of AI moving forward. And we don't want this just to be one or two people sitting in a room coming up with the AI policy. So why do you think it's important for districts to develop an AI governance team right now? Like, why right now?
And this,
Matt,
Adam, and then
first.
maybe other people can chime in. We've had, I had a team. We don't call it a governance team, but essentially it functions in the same way. We call it our AI action research team. And we've had that group together since probably the spring of 23. And it's teachers from cross curricular, across schools, cross grade levels. And I think the biggest part of the work that we do in that group is talk about what they're seeing. Like, I can sit here in my office at the district office and read and talk to people, like all of these people on the chat here on the call here, and get a feel for what's happening. But unless you really have the teachers that are on the ground telling you what they're seeing in classrooms, how are kids using it, sharing the stories of how are their peers using it, you can't make the changes and make the adaptations and make the change you need to happen in your schools without having that from the teachers, from the people in the ground. We've had guidance out since the late spring of 23 for our teachers, and every summer we adapt it, or like this fall we even started, actually midwinter we started adapting some of the things that we put out based off of what we're seeing. Like, AI is changing so fast, and so there's so many new things coming. Like, just throwing up guidance and saying, all right, we did this and check that box in the spring of 23 and now we're done. Like, that's never going to fly. Like, we've had to constantly adapt and change and modify what we're doing to have that out there for everybody, because you never know what you're going to see tomorrow, or the things that people are going to find to use it for inappropriately or appropriately. And how do you adapt and change is the reason, you kind of got to have that team put together.
So I got to start with this a little bit. I'm an English nerd by trade. And so I read a lot and write a lot. And one of my favorite speeches ever given was David Foster Wallace's "This is Water" speech. It's at Kenyon Commencement College. It tells the story of two. He starts it off with two fish are swimming through the ocean. They see an older fish. The older fish says, "Hey boys, how's the water?" The two younger fish look at each other and kind of crazily, and then the other fish says, "Fine," and they swim off. The young fish turns to the other young fish and says, "What the heck is water?" And I use this story all the time because when we're talking about AI, because it's around us all the time. And one of the things that we forget about AI is that, especially with Gen AI, when it hit November of 2022, is that it hit all of us equally all at once. It wasn't a technologist issue. It wasn't a English issue. It wasn't a science issue. It wasn't even just an education issue. It was an everyone issue. And so when we think about governance teams, they're so important because they're multidisciplinary and they're multifunctional. And that gives you a vision that is not just singular, but multifaceted, that can drive appropriate innovations that encapsulate everyone. I am completely fascinated right now with the work around AI and accessibility for multiple communities in our schools, and the promises that it can kind of hope, or that we hope it will fulfill for us in the educational system. And I just always think about that with these governance teams, is that the importance of having somebody with a special education background on there, or a gifted, talented background. And if we only have this with technologists, whether they be classroom teachers who are really good at it, all the way up to a CTO, then it's going to die on the vine. We need to have everyone's viewpoints kind of shared with us, and making sure that's good. And that's why a governance team that's multidisciplinary is so important.
And I would like to just add one more. Matthew, you're brilliant. You know that. He's the czar. But one more thing. Okay. In Denver, or not Denver, LA, Orange County, that's where they're doing it. Speaking with Wes and Kanal out there, their AI governance goes one step further than the classroom or the superintendent's office. They actually bring in administrative assistants and others to talk about it. And they even meet monthly with the administrative assistants to talk around AI and how they're using it and things that they can do with AI. And I was like, that is brilliant to have administrative assistants, even though I work for operations and I work for teaching and learning and I work for IT, but we're coming together explaining how we're able to use AI to help. And it's like the rising tide lifts all ships. Yes, I may be on a raft and you may be on a yacht, but we're both going to rise.
And I would like to also add in that we also need to make sure that we are bringing in students to talk about these things. Because yes, while it may be blocked, we may be trying to do all the things to keep them from it. They still have access. Some students still have access at home on their phones. And so we need to make sure that we're bringing them into the conversation to ask, how are they using it when they're not in school? And if they do use it for schoolwork, let's have that honest conversation. Tell me how you're using it. How could using AI in the classroom be beneficial to you as a student? What are those things that you're seeing that if my teacher would just do this, or if our teacher would allow us to do this, we could really engage in this assignment, or whatever the case may be. But bringing in the students, I think, is going to be that sweet spot where we really know how we need to move as the adults in education, how we need to move to really meet them where they are.
And I completely agree. And I love the idea of all these different stakeholders and perspectives being a part of that. That's been a part of, we call it our guidance team, but essentially our governance team. And some of the things that have been really successful for us is we do have a core group of, cross-divisional folks who make up that guidance team, but we've created a lot of subgroups and a lot of areas to go out and pull people in where they may not be a part of that core team, but they have a voice in some of that work. We also, look at, we kind of bring our friends who maybe don't spend as much time in the classroom to the classrooms and say, let's go on a field trip. Let's go do some empathy interviews with teachers, with students. Let's go see a lesson in action. And my team, we're on the teaching and learning side. Like they are, hey, I created an idea of how we could use this. Can I come into your classroom and try it? And let's look at it together. So if you don't have folks that are those boots on the ground, how can you create a space for them to be in that experience and get that perspective? I think has been really helpful for us. And then the last part that our governance team did that I think has given us something to hold on to as things do constantly change has been our guiding principles for how we make decisions around AI. And so that's something that's a part of our guidance we created for our community. So no matter what your role is, we can hold on to these like shared principles for how we make decisions. And that's created a common language when we're talking to people in different roles about their use of AI to make sure that we're kind of moving in the same direction and not off message or off the vision from each other.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. 'Cause it's one of those things I love how everybody brought up different aspects of ensuring that the right voices are at the table when you're coming up with this stuff, especially the students. I saw someone in the chat mention that they block AI for students under 13. And so, and I know everyone hears this, but there is a difference between AI and generative AI. Even though we use the term AI to be all encompassing of all forms of AI, because AI is so baked into products now. I'm willing to bet you have people under 13 using AI. You just don't know it because it's on the back end of a platform or a product. If you are having an image retouched right now in your Zoom platform, that's AI. I love in the Zoom meetings, everybody had like lipstick and eyeliner and all this stuff. Yeah, everybody remembers the guy that says, I'm not a cat. That's AI. All those things are on the back end doing a lot. When you're using Canva, Adobe, these products, they have various AI components on the back end that you may not be aware of. And I've seen recently that Google and Microsoft are now allowing generative AI with student use at certain levels. So, it's really having the conversation, but also ensuring that students can tell you how they have currently been using AI, because they may bring something to the table that you may not even be aware of as far as their uses around AI. And so with that, I do want to share like the resource that we've created around Future Ready to ensure that there's effective use of AI in your spaces. And this is our AI by design tool that we've come up with. And you can find this, the URL is on the screen at this point. But through that, we have a resource that will walk you through the process of how to get started with this using our Future Ready framework. So taking the Future Ready gears and developing your governance team, or however you choose to define your team. Checking your readiness using the AI EDU's framework or resource that we provided. Just check your readiness to gauge where you are with that. Who should be a part of this governance team? Everybody from students to also your parents, because we want to make sure that we're doing this in collaboration with them and not necessarily to their kids, but with them and their students. So having the right people in there, having your legal advisors, because we don't understand all the policy changes that may occur. I think Chris mentioned AI is changing daily. So we want to make sure that we're doing the right things and we're staying legal as we move forward with using this. And really developing your plan that make sure everyone understands it's a living document as we change these things. And so coming up with that team, our next step is that we utilize is using our Future Ready framework. So going gear by gear and developing the policies and practices that work best for you and your district. We're not telling you, hey, create this rule, because each population, your guidance should be different. It's going to look a little different in South Carolina than it does in Utah. It's going to look a little different in Georgia than it looks in New Mexico, based on your various state guidelines and things of that nature. But what we've put here are certain questions that you should just consider as you're going through your policy practices and your development. And we've also taken some best practices from across the country. So we've found some really great things that are happening in a district called Gwinnett and really highlighted the resource that they have there. We pulled some things from AI EDU and some of our partners and collaborators around this work in AI. We want to make sure that we're bringing the information to you and you're able to utilize that. And for those of you wondering how much this resource costs, it's my favorite price, free 99. Yes, you heard me, free 99 for everybody. No matter where you are, you can access these resources because we just want you to do the right work in your spaces to ensure that students are able to maximize this amazing resource, and you're doing it equitably and fairly and ensuring that educational excellence hits everybody in your buildings. So the next thing that I want to talk about with this, how are we supporting AI with our students? We kind of mentioned this a little bit in our chat, but can y'all give me some deeper examples on how AI is supporting student learning in your spaces right now?
I can take that one, Adam. So our district is taking its time in really making sure that our teachers and our students are well prepared for our next steps and moves and how we're going to implement AI. And so at the school level, one thing that I have been doing is talking to teachers and having those conversations of where they are in AI. What are your feelings about it? Can I come into your classroom and let's have this kind of same discussion with the students and kind of doing a campfire style discussion around AI. And then asking if I can come back in for a follow-up. And I've been actually using the lessons from AI EDU, going in and having those literacy conversations with students, not using any type of tool, not using any type of generative AI with them, but just getting them to notice the way that AI is already embedded into what they're doing every day, having those conversations with them. And I tell you, it's so eye-opening. And that's one thing that really got me to stop what I was doing in my, going in and using the tools and seeing what it does. It was what the students were saying and how they were using AI and how it's in their social media platforms and how some students' friends were using AI as a companion in their Snapchats. And so having those conversations with them, doing those literacy lessons within AI EDU has really been the driving force to get our teachers to begin looking at it. So those who were apprehensive, not sure, because of the students, they are actually doing their exploration now. And so I really feel that when we do have our guidance come out district-wide, we have a lot more buy-in because we went and had those conversations with our students first.
Okay, Chris, I know you mentioned earlier the resource that you have, and we've referenced the resources that you put together throughout our guidance document that we've created. Can you kind of share some of the things that you've been able to do to support students with their AI journey?
Sure. There's a couple things that come to mind. Some of our teachers that have had a part of my AI action research team since the beginning, they're in their third year now of having kids in their class that they've been embracing AI and trying different things. And so some of the things that you can see once you have a teacher that gets more and more comfortable, but also kids that have had 2 or 3 years of learning and understanding how some of this can impact them, you really get some fascinating work. So, we have English teachers that are doing a lot of work around grading process over product now. A lot of them are kind of turning into, where I was at an event down in Oregon yesterday, and they were talking about, grading the chat rather than grading the essay, grading the conversations that the kids are having, because our teachers are saying that they can actually get a better handle on the student's thought process and the learning that's taking place by seeing the conversations back and forth that they're having. We have a high school chemistry teacher that has built chatbots that only give wrong answers. And then the kids are forced to not argue with it, but plead their case and teach the chatbot what the right answer is. And then, they only pass the assignment once they can convince the AI that the student is actually correct. And then the teacher goes through and looks at the conversation to see the process that's taken place. Those are some examples of some things we've done. We have one teacher and there's a blog post on the website that you just put up there, Adam, and we actually made a video about it because I thought it was such a great story. And it was, she came to one of my trainings earlier this year, and I was just showing off a tool called HeyGen. If you haven't seen it, it makes avatars of people, and then you can translate those avatars into other languages. And she had a girl in her class that had just come here from Ukraine and spoke zero English whatsoever, just kind of sat in class sullen and, not really paying attention. And she tells the story about how, she started building her lessons and then having them translated into Ukrainian so that Sophia, the student in her class, could take part in the lessons, and then how Sophia got engaged and she was able to start, working in group projects with her peers because she could write all of her work in Ukrainian, and, using some of the AI translation tools to be able to just be a partner in her teammates' work, and then be able to present in class. Even though she couldn't speak in English, she could have an avatar that could do that for her. And so there's a lot of little stories like that you can really, make a difference in kids learning just by, figuring out how it's going to work for you and for the kids that you have.
That's so great. Because here's the thing that most people don't even realize. I'm not even here right now. I'm AI generated. I'm not even here. I'm literally on vacation someplace. I just want to let everyone know that I actually am an avatar right now.
But I will jump in and just say one of the things that I wanted the kids to do, as Danae she mentioned kids having the Snapchat. Yes, I said the Snapchat, but the AI in Snapchat as a conversational piece or thought partner or whatever. I was afraid that many of my students wouldn't have access to those Snapchat pieces or Meta on their phone or whatever. So that's why I took a deep dive into Magic School AI a couple of years ago, because I knew they were coming out with the Magic Student. And knowing that, well, the guy who worked 2 cubicles over from me, he was a teacher in the school where a deal con work where he was principal. He was like, yeah, my principal created this tool and now he's not my principal anymore and he's doing these things. I was like, oh, cool. But I saw that and I wanted my students to have access. And even the kids that didn't have the phones, they have their Chromebooks in schools and the teachers can open it up so that they can use it in a safe space. As a principal, I always told my teachers I wanted my kids to learn and even be bad and do things in the space, in the safety of our school building, so that it would be low stakes and it wouldn't follow them for life. However, once they get out in the world, it would probably be a lot different. So I wanted them to have those lessons there instead of in the world. So that's why I wanted to do the same thing with Magic School. And sorry, I don't work for them and I don't. That's just the tool we use. My bad. But we use this one magic tool that allows the kids to have access.
You can name the product. You can product drop. It's okay.
Have access to generative AI tools. And they've grown from that. And there's another tool that I'm not going to mention, but the kids are used to this and they enjoy working with these tools and making sure that they're pushing some of the envelopes more so than we are in some of the things that they're doing with AI, and I love it.
Oh, go ahead, Sally. You go first.
Thanks. One of the exciting things that I think is a tell, right, when your students actually start saying and doing what you hope they do, right, like what your teachers are modeling, what they're saying. And so it's been really exciting to see. We've had a lot of conversations about what role does AI play in the learning process and the creation process, and how that really varies depending on what the learning goal is, what skill we're trying to observe. And so our teachers are articulating that aloud for students. And so over time, the students who've had these experiences, they start to own that understanding and kind of like become their own guardrails, I guess, if you will, for how they use AI, which is really exciting. I know recently there was a student who had transferred in to our high school that's doing a lot of this work, and they were like doing a group assignment. He was like, guys, let's log into AI and do this thing. And they were like, yeah, we can actually do that. Like, that's allowed. We need to use it in this way. This is what we're trying to show. This is a skill. And the teacher was like, okay, I'm just going to keep walking. Like, check, that was great. So I think, like, you know, for us, we're really trying to not just like, what is the tool and how does it work, but like, what role does it play? And like the agency that comes with that and that student voice, like, and teacher voice, that yes, there's a lot of potential here, a lot of opportunity, but like, how do we value those human skill development parts of that, and what's that balance? And so it's just been really cool to see our teachers think through that, then our students start to think through that and actually be able to apply that in those ways. So that's been really exciting.
I love that, Sally. So I'm in a system, I'm much larger system than most of us on the call. And so there's a lot of considerations that I think about in terms of that systems level with students. One of my favorite videos ever is Sir Ken Robinson's video, How to Escape Education's Death Valley. And in there, he says, there's great work happening, not because of the dominant system, but in spite of the dominant system. And that's something that I think about almost every single day in this role, is how can we facilitate removing friction so that things that can happen, that need to happen at the classroom level, that will affect student growth and student change and their futures, are actually going to happen. And so I'm lucky to work in the state of Utah. I'm going to put in the chat really quick. We have a grant program that's been helping with funding one-to-one initiatives with all sorts of things across the state for years. On top of that, we've been attacking the digital divide. Like Greg said earlier, it's so important that we have just basic internet in our buildings so that then students can access those. And so we have great access across the entire state. And I could talk your ear off about some of the amazing things we're doing there. But on top of that, in terms of AI, systems thinkers really need to think about, how do we get these tools, these generative AI tools, available for schools so that the school doesn't have to take the weight of vetting these tools and working it through. So about a year ago, we ran through an RFP process here in the state of Utah where we have 3 generative AI tools for consortium pricing across the state. And it's cut down the friction for the districts and the charter schools so that they can really dive into this, figure out what tool works best for them. And then I've had my ear to the ground to listen to, hey, do we need other types of tools? What's out there in the field? What are you using? What's the use cases and things like that? And so on top of that, I also want to highlight that as much as I'm about the student growth, we also have to keep in mind, I love, Danae, you brought this up, we have to worry about the teachers as well. One and done professional development around anything is bad, let alone artificial intelligence and generative AI. And so we have to really think through, how do we come back again and again, whether it be through coaching or state-led initiatives or district-led initiatives that help support teachers over the long term to integrate this fully into their classroom and become future ready.
Ooh, I love how you just tee things up there for me, Matt. It's almost like you just can read my mind. Only a czar can do those kinds of things. So thank you for that. I do want to share Project Tomorrow's Speak Up survey. If you are not aware of them, definitely check out the resource. You see the link there. They are in the process right now of doing some survey data around the implementation of use of AI. And you can participate in the survey. You can use their survey, add your data to this nationwide survey, and also you can extrapolate data that's specific to your area as well if you would like to participate in that. But this is some of their preliminary data that they found to the tune of educators, and 31% of them, they need some clear guidelines on how AI tools can be used. Also, monitoring the use of student AI, being able to monitor that, and also have comprehensive education for students on the ethical use of AI. Because here's the thing, this tool is there, and you don't have to teach someone how to use something bad in a bad way. They'll figure it out. And not just the students, but the adults. There was a story a year or so ago about a teacher that got mad at their administrator and decided to use an AI version of that administrator's voice, saying some very harmful things. And that went viral before the truth came out. The person got suspended and all this stuff, and then it came out that it was AI generated. So we have adults that are utilizing these tools in an unethical way. So it's ensuring that we have the right practices in place and supporting our educators so they can be the leaders in the use of AI in their wheelhouse. So let me ask you this. How, coming off of that data, that research data, how can we support our teachers to feel confident and supported in this work? Because we don't want to just stick them out there on an island. And you mentioned it can't be one and done, the use around AI, but these tools are changing. We could go through, this could be a whole hour of listening to every single AI tool that's out there. But how can we help them feel confident in that? And I know, Danae, this is something that you feel very passionately about. And I know I saw your session that you did at ASU GSV where you were kind of sharing this work. So if you could just kind of lead us off with this about how we can support our teachers in this AI implementation.
Yes. So when it comes to really making sure that teachers feel supported, it can't be a one and done. It starts with a conversation. I call them hallway huddles. It starts with that parking lot talk about AI and all those things that they would say in a non-professional setting. And then taking that and taking those mindsets and really applying it to the PD and the PLCs that we do, and really getting them to understand what AI is. I love books to the point that every time a package comes, my husband knows it's a book, and they're overtaking my home. But I've been reading a lot of AI books that are non-education. So the Co-Intelligence book, Unmasking AI, those are some of the books that I've just been reading recently. But understanding AI from a non-education lens has helped me to really be able to meet teachers where they are so that they can understand it from that lens. I've also been sharing those books with them, having those conversations, coaching them through PLCs, but while they're in the classroom. And then giving them something that they already use and showing them the AI that's in it, and then giving them a safe space to do low stakes exploration. So the project that Adam was talking about was I created a chatbot. Teachers were already using school AI. And so I took that, there was a session that I did with PlayLab, and they had a very extensive template that I was able to use to build my chatbot. And then I put that into school AI, and it was my coaching assistant. And so while teachers on Sunday evening or 9 o'clock at night, I'm not available to you. I don't know about you. I got 3 boys. I can't be available for school stuff at 9 at night. But this coaching chatbot can be. And so I made it to kind of mimic how I would coach teachers through if they were doing a lesson. And I said, just try this out, as you're planning, click on it, see if it helps you out. And so I was able to get data and feedback from the teachers about it, make some small tweaks to make it fit what the teachers needed. And it's proved to actually be a really great tool. And they were able to sit in the learner seat. And so now I have teachers wanting to say, hey, I want to build a chatbot for next year. Matter of fact, I got so many notes from you guys. You guys are awesome. But building a chatbot that gives you all wrong answers and letting the students go in and have to convince the chatbot to know the right answer. I love that. And so those are some of the things that we're going to work on for next year with teachers. But it all starts because they had something low stakes, a need was already there. And so I was able to meet that need through a chatbot. And give me the feedback. This isn't going on evaluations. It's nothing like that. It's just you and me having the conversation of what you need and how can I meet that? And so through that, I was able to really make a lot more progress with teachers and the AI conversation.
I think clear is kind. And I think, when you have guidance and those guardrails and specific, stance goals, whatever it is around it, like people crave that. It gives them a space to play in that. The other thing that we've seen be really successful in building that confidence is exactly like you just said, is creating that low stakes space where like, hey, we're going to take some risk and it might not work and that's okay. And really encouraging that innovation. And again, going back to, there's a balance in like teacher agency and also not having enough information to be able to own that agency. And so for us, we try to do a little push and pull where it's like, hey, these are the guardrails. What do you think is right in this situation? We're going to push in and say, hey, have we tried this? What do you think about that? Did you know AI could do this? Right. And so I think it's conversational and it's creating that safe space, exactly like you said. But I know for us, like as much as we wanted to give our teachers a lot of agency, they also just don't know what that means yet. And so there's a lot of modeling still happening, a lot of thought partnering and trying to create a space where they feel like they can try those things. And it's okay if it doesn't go well.
And one of the things that I like to do, like I told the instructional coaches, I'm sorry, we're over in that building right there when we did it, is to look for entry points. Try to figure out, you've worked with, because the instructional coaches, they work with the teachers in the classrooms all the time and they know how they operate. They know the things they like, the things they don't like. And I say, try to find entry points based on the things that you know about the person, so that you can introduce this way of using AI or this AI tool or this method. And that seemed to have helped finding those entry points and making sure that they know, yes, we're going to coach you up. We're always going to coach you up. We're never going to be away, and you will have access to us to help you whenever you need that assistance dealing with any of the tools, not just the AI tools or the AI things. So, entry points.
So, speaking of entry points, and here the way a lot of folks get started with AI are tools. We mentioned this earlier, and I like what you said earlier, Matt. So like when you talk about AI, I don't necessarily, I do agree with you because I don't think necessarily AI is a tool by itself, but I think tools utilize AI. And there's so many of them that are out there. We mentioned a few of them throughout this webinar thus far. Like one that I saw that I thought was kind of cool. This one called Socrate. I don't know if y'all are familiar with this one, but it's kind of cool when I think about the potential and where we could be going with AI. Like Socrate, it uses is an app and it uses like a microphone that teachers could wear. A lot of folks walk around with their AirPods in their ear, whether right or wrong. But it can take that AI conversation that you're having throughout your day and really build out your notes that you could send home to your parents about what's going on in the classroom with your students. It listens for those names and can build things out, whether you're talking about like attendance, behavior, and it's really great for parent-student communication. Because when I think about the use of AI, it really should be for lightening the load of educators. When you talk about what's happening in the classroom, lightening that load, making that administrative work a little bit lighter in that classroom, helping people be a little bit more creative in that space. So the question for the audience, for the attendees, could share, like, what's an AI tool that has you really excited, about where it could go, the potential, or where you see it going. Just really quick, share like your tool, your quick tool share, like, 30 seconds or less tool share going around, because I know some people are in here want to know what's a cool tool. So cool tool in 30 seconds or less, each panelist. Let's start us off with that, Chris.
All right. There's 3 different tools that have the same functionality, but I'm going to call it this. It's the same thing. It's the new deep research functionality that you can get into in ChatGPT and in Gemini and in Perplexity. The amount of work that I've been able to accomplish with deep research, or just the digging into topics to help me understand them better, the deep research functionality is really pretty awesome that have just come out in a lot of the ChatGPT or the AI tools. So I'm going to go with that.
Cool. All right. Greg, what you got?
I do like the conversation that you could have in Notebook LM with the folks on the podcast now. It's a beta thing, and I'm going to drop something in the chat that's a little different. But Danae, thank you for mentioning Play Labs or Play Lab. It's singular. It's so cool, and teachers can get in and build their own and do all these. So I'm going to stick with Play Lab right now, but there's a bunch of tools out there that make me happy.
All right, Danae, since he teed you up there.
All right, so one thing that my teachers are loving right now is brisk teaching. We are a Google school district, and so they're loving the integration because it's right there in their Google apps. But also, our students are loving Adobe Express and the AI tools that are built into Adobe Express.
All right, Matt, what you got?
So many tools out there. Currently, I am just obsessed with anything that allows me to build a RAG database that allows me to put everything into that I want to learn about a particular topic and just really run with it and ask a chatbot everything I'm working with. So like examples, School AI has a function in there, Notebook LM, even like Gemini and ChatGPT, where you're able to plug in all the information you want. I'm just fascinated by that because we've done some really interesting works here at the agency internally where we built basically databases of articles and legislation that we all need to understand, but it's hard to read sometimes or pile through it. And it's helped us to move a little bit more quickly. So anything that allows me to do that kind of work has been so useful the last 6 months.
All right, Sally, what you got for us?
Yeah, I agree with Matt. I think we've been doing a lot of that, kind of creating our own custom databases and chatbots. So Notebook LM's awesome, and Play Lab also love that. We're exploring some new things with that tool as well. So it's hard to choose sometimes.
All right, and I'm gonna throw one more curveball to the panelists. Sorry, I didn't prep you on this one, but this is one of your things real quick. What are you most excited about as we move forward with generative AI in K-12? Just like, really quick, what excites you? We talked about the app, but what excites you the most about the potential of AI in K-12 moving forward?
The kids will have their own chatbot tutor with them 24/7, and they can analyze it and work with them, and it will help them, hopefully, if they're thinking in the right capacity, because we've trained them to be this way, they're going to be doing amazing things.
I think if we do this right, we really have a chance to create some authentic learning experiences for our students that are relevant to the skills and the interests that they have and the world they're going to enter into. But it's going to require us to rethink some things and be really strategic.
I really like Sally's answer. I do think that we're going to, some of this, the work that AI is going to allow us to do is going to put some of the humanity back in teaching too, and allow, the human connections that we're going to have a little bit more possibility to do, I think, is what really excites me, and making sure that this, we get this right the first time this time.
I really love how AI is already making us have those conversations about the way that we assess our students, assessing process and not the product. And then also personalized learning. That's one thing that teachers have really been wanting to wrap their arms around, but it's hard. And I think AI is going to really allow that to skyrocket in a way that we haven't seen before.
Stick with me. I'm really excited about the potential of AI to decentralize the expertise of the teacher in the classroom. I think too long we've had to rely on teachers being the be all end all of learning in the classroom. And oftentimes that pushed me particularly into spaces that I was not really comfortable with content. And so now we can offload some of those big content conversations to AI and help teachers get back to teaching what they actually know best, which is, in my case, writing and reading. And for other teachers, it's science and math, instead of trying to fill in all of the gaps that a student brings to the classroom.
Adam, I'll just drop one more thing. I know I was on a podcast a couple of years back during the pandemic, and I said it only took the global pandemic to make us change the way we think about teaching. And I said, we're not going back. And then we went back kicking and screaming. We can't go back on AI. So I'm excited about that.
And speaking of not being able to go back, at Future Ready, once again, this whole webinar around this is really promoting our brand new tool that just got released today, free 99, our AI by Design guide. The link's there, futureready.link, AI by Design. Please check out the resource. We want to support each and everybody out there. It's a living resource. We're adding more and more things each and every day, adding content from these amazing panelists that you see here. We've been taking notes. So some of you have been adding some things into the chat. We'll make sure those things are shared as well. Also, coming very soon, we're having our Future Ready AI Leadership Bootcamp starting mid-July. Fully virtual there, 6 weeks. It's going to be 2 hours per week. The cost is there. It's going to be facilitated by myself and the one and only Mr. Thomas C. Murray. Some of you may be familiar with Mr. Murray. Really great resource that we'll be sharing coming soon. So make sure that you check that out. If you join our mailing list, you'll get access to all of that resources there. Once again, I'd like to thank each and every one of our panelists for taking up some of your time being here today. We couldn't do this without you. So thank you everybody for being here, being a part of our panel. Let's give a virtual round of applause to everybody for being here today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, my name is Dr. Adam File, Director of Professional Learning and Leadership here at Future Ready Schools. Thank you for joining us today. And if you missed any part of today's broadcast, you can watch it on YouTube. We're going to have some amazing clips that we're going to push out to you, so check those out. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, have a great rest of your week.